Now we're gonna go a little bit after. I'm gonna stop it at 0, and we'll just hold on 0 for a little bit. I will. I'll give you a heads up. Cool. Y'all ready to go? All right, we will go in about 1 minute. Let me just prep my little station. All right. All right, mics are going to be hot, so let's keep them quiet until Casey introduces everyone. Stand by. All right, Casey, we are coming to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go for it. You're hot.
Hello and welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily news show. Today we will be talking about PlayStation's State of Play, Xbox's weird Xbox Live Gold messaging, and Nintendo's crazy success. I'm your host, Casey DeFreitas, and today I am joined by Terry Schwartz.
Hello.
Ryan McCaffrey.
Howdy.
And David Griffin.
What's happening?
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to talk about the PlayStation State of Play especially, but we won't be covering literally everything that they showed because it's quite a lot. You can go ahead and check out that article that is comprehensive on IGN.com. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask all of you what your favorite announcements that you saw. David, let's start with you. What was your favorite thing about the State of Play?
So I think the VR games really stood out to me. I think it's just the way that the previews were shown. So let's start with Hitman 3. The way the opening scene goes where he's walking through the party and he goes behind the guy and you see him pull out the wire, and he's about to strangle him. I was just thinking, because I don't own a VR set personally, but I was just thinking that must feel really weird, like very visceral, to actually do that whole thing where you have to strangle the guy. I was like, it kind of just shocked me a little bit, but it also seems very interesting and I want to check it out. And then of course, Vader Immortal looks cool, and just for the reason of actually being able to, hold the lightsaber and just go against some Jedi and Sith. Like Vader Immortal looks really cool as well. So I think for me, just seeing those VR games, first of all, it makes me want to get a VR set because I want to experience that, and I think they just look really cool.
David, you're at that point of pandemic quarantine where you're like, might as well just get a VR set and become a villain and just start murdering people with a lightsaber or whatever.
I'm not with my own home in the game. Yes.
I'm thinking about getting a VR headset too. I'm not going anywhere, so I could spend the money on getting a VR headset and pretend that I'm going places instead, right?
Exactly.
Terry, what was your favorite thing that you saw from the State of Play today?
I am going a bit retro and picking the Braid remaster. I love that game and just the level of detail that went into that remaster. I'm really excited to play it. I haven't played it, in about a decade or so now, and just watching this play out. First of all, I thought the trailer was a little bit of a spoiler. If you've beaten that game, you're like, wow, they lean really heavily into this one certain aspect. But yeah, it looks so gorgeous, and I'd love to revisit it, and with all the director's commentary as well. This looks like a very pleasant way to spend some time and get to play it. Look at that. Yeah. It's incredible.
It looks great.
I'm
Terry,
really excited.
For those of us who are unfamiliar with Braid, could you tell us why people would be excited about it and why Braid was such a great game back in the day?
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't cover this in the industry. Like when it came out, I played it as a fan and went in not knowing too much about it, but it was just a really seminal indie game. I believe created by one person. Ryan, correct me if I'm mistaken. There, I'm blanking on their name.
Jonathan Blow.
Jonathan Blow, thank you. Yeah, and just like an incredible level of detail. And again, like the story really, really struck me when I played it the first time. The ending really captured me, and I thought the gameplay mechanics paired with a really moving story just have impacted me a lot. And so, to be clearly, I'm not remembering nearly enough of the scale about it because I haven't played it in a while. So watching this trailer come out got me really excited about revisiting it next year.
It definitely looks great, and I completely missed the Braid Train. I did not play it, so this would be a great opportunity for me to check it out when it comes out. But Ryan, what was your favorite thing that you saw from Sony's State of Play today?
Well, I'm going to let you finish, but I'm just going to say if all of you are going to get VR, play Half-Life Alyx. The best thing to ever happen to VR. It is my game of the year so far for 2020, so do not miss it if you're all starting to buy VR headsets. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox and talk about another cool video game from this one, of course, State of Play. Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, I thought looked not only visually just gorgeous, looks like a beautiful game, but it just looks fun. It very much seems to capture, I mean, Toys for Bob is, I think, a really underrated developer. They've done a really great job on these games for the last number of years under the Activision umbrella. You know, Activision, you generally tend to think of Call of Duty and nothing else, but Toys for Bob's been doing great work for a long time, and this just looks great. The variety of gameplay looks there appears to be a ton of depth to it too. There are multiple playable characters, reasons to revisit the worlds, and you know, I don't get hardcore, awesome, legendary Nintendo platformers often enough. So something like this to step in just scratches that old school platforming itch for me. So yeah, I have to say this game really wasn't on my personal radar before this showing on State of Net. Heard about it, I was like, okay, yeah, a new Crash game, all right. But watching this, I've now got October 2nd circled. We've got that and Star Wars Squadrons out on the same day, so it'll be a good day. But this just looks really good, and I'm super excited for it now.
I did really appreciate how the State of Play showed off a lot of gameplay. Sure, there were some shorter trailers. Some I even missed. Like I was watching the State of Play and I somehow missed that there's a new Alan Wake announcement. I don't know how I did that, but apparently it was in there. But otherwise, there seemed to be a lot of gameplay. Like, for example, we also saw some more gameplay of Godfall, and I know a lot of people were kind of underwhelmed by it, but I am increasingly more interested in that game. But I also wanted to point out another bit of news that a lot of people probably don't think is big news, but it's big news to me. So Temtem is an MMO that's kind of like Pokemon that was in Steam, has been in Steam Early Access for a very long time. I wrote a preview on it earlier. Was this year? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that was this year.
Pre-pandemic. I remember planning it.
That was so long ago. But
back when we had an office.
Yeah, back when we had an office, and where I had a PC, I could play it on. But I expected Temtem to come out on current gen consoles. I expected PS4, Switch, Xbox, and it was announced today that it's going to come out on PS5 instead. And I found that extremely surprising, but I guess it makes sense to support a Pokemon MMO. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm really interested in that. I'm also kind of disappointed that I will now have to purchase a PS5 or a next-gen console to play that immediately, but I guess we'll get into it. And also, I wanted to call out to the YouTube chat. I want to know what your favorite games that you saw, the favorite thing that you saw from the PlayStation State of Play as well. And in the meantime, I wanted to know overall, like, how did all of you feel about this presentation? Was it an overall positive one for you? Was it negative? Did they not do a good job? What do you all think?
We got another Bugsnax trailer, so that was exciting. We still have no idea what that game is. We're on the social team where we're keeping that flag alive for Bugsnax to try to figure out what the heck that is. But yeah, I mean, I thought, I kind of went in with like lowish expectations because so much big news has already come out, and I thought that their big reveal back in June was so big. So again, like it didn't blow me away, but exciting games, and as you said, more in-depth gameplay that we got to see actually what some of these titles are.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that, Terry. Ryan and David, do you have any differing opinions?
No, I was just happy to see gameplay. If they're going to show anything, I don't mind a good cinematic trailer. You know, they can be beautiful to look at, but I really just want to see the games and see what they're like when you play them. And I was happy that we saw that, even though, of course, you know, there's some more information about the PlayStation 5 that I'd love to know, you know, like when that's coming out and price and all that. But, I mean, this was, you know, it was a nice tease. It was something. It was better than nothing, I think.
Yeah, Sony they set the expectation going in. This was not going to be a big PS5 thing, so that's all well and good. And I have to say, like, I thought this was a really excellent stream. Like they showed a lot of neat stuff, a good variety of things. I wish Microsoft would do these. I mean, they're, you know, a mix of first party, but a lot of third party stuff. I mean, the State of Play is that they straight copied the Nintendo Directs, but that's because they work. They're good. It's a good format. You keep it moving along. It's not full of heads and banter. It's trailer. You just move on, showing gameplay, showing trailers, making limits. These are great, and I thought this was a nice day for Sony. And you know, there's a couple of games I added to my sort of wish list here. I mean, Hitman in VR is kind of a nice little bonus that David was talking about earlier. I don't know if I'd want to play the whole game that way, which you can. You can play all three of them. Are getting updated for VR.
And Bugsnax, of course.
Thing to mess around with. I talked about. Yeah,
I think this is definitely a great showcase to remind us that there are more games coming out at the end of the year to look forward to. I've been in my little like Nintendo bubble for a little while, and it's just pretty barren out there, except for Pikmin 3 now. But hey, we do have more things to look forward to, and I completely.
Where's my Super Mario Sunshine remaster?
I know. I don't.
I was promised by the internet. What's
I don't
going
know.
on with that?
Internet,
Saltzman in
it's your
chat
fault.
really wants Spelunky too.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm actually surprised to see a lot of the comments from our YouTube right now are all looking forward to different things and have a bunch of different favorite things. Helgas's Godfall, of course. We have Omega/Buster1, who gave it a 6 out of 10, solid, but could have been better. And Spelunky, of course. And a bunch of other things. So overall. But there's obviously more to talk about a PlayStation State of Play, and we can talk about it more, but I wanted to move on to some Microsoft news instead, specifically how they've been kind of wishy-washy with their messaging about Xbox Live Gold. At least that's how I am interpreting it. But Microsoft has clarified that they have no plans to end Xbox Live Gold service, even though they have discontinued the 12-month subscription options. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit more about the story?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Microsoft's been wishy-washy about it. I think it's one of those things where rumors get started and there's a little thing here, a little thing there. Wait, is Microsoft going to get rid of gold? And then everybody kind of wants that to happen, so they try to will it into existence. Well, no such luck yet. Yeah, they're going to stick with gold, stick with the gold subscription, but of course there's the difference. There isn't one on PC and there is on Xbox, and now they're blurring the lines between PC and console. So it is a little murky, but for better or for worse, for now, gold is going to continue. Quote, there are no changes being made to the experience of the service or Xbox Live Gold. So there's a little update from Microsoft, but you've got the 12-month option was absolutely the way I used to buy it. I think probably a lot of people, it's $5 a month. You get it for 60. Sometimes you can even catch a deal at certain times of the year to get a 12-month for even less than that. But you're looking at a 3-month for $25 or $10 per month, which I certainly hope nobody's paying that way, because that's like the most expensive way to do it.
That's what I was going to say. Getting rid of it just makes it seem like it's a lot more expensive for the same service. I don't necessarily understand that thinking on Microsoft's part, especially going into a new console year.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft, they're a software and services company, and there's Game Pass, there's Gold, there's Ultimate, so might out in the coming couple. Their console no interest subscription plan, basically, where you make 2 years worth a month, kind of like with a lot of like phones do that now, where you just pay 1/24 of the amount of the phone over the course of 2 years until it's paid off. So there are a lot of services with Microsoft, and yeah, they I guess they could be a bit clearer for sure. And I wonder if at the next Microsoft event, where we don't know, but we expect to hear about the other next-gen console, the codename Lockhart, and probably I would think they'd have to do the price and the release date by then. So if there's anything that's going to change about Gold, that's the time at that event where I think it would seem like it makes sense to message it. But for now, they're digging their heels in and saying Gold is staying as is, despite the fact that you can't buy the nice 12-month option anymore.
This is completely speculation, but seeing that they're taking that away but still having it around tells me that Gold is still going to be needed in some capacity. Like, you'll still need some sort of service to be able to play your games online, but maybe it will be an add-on option for Game Pass, and maybe that's why they are taking away the year-long subscription, because maybe for, I don't know, $5 more you can get both.
Right.
And trying to get
possible.
And then,
it would make a lot of sense. I mean, if you're a software as company and you've got a bunch of services that you want to sell to your customers, it makes sense to bundle as many of them together and make, because you want people to have them all and you want it to be easy for people. So you make a good point.
David, you're primarily a PC player, right?
I am, yeah, because I remember when I was listening to Ryan on Unlocked, and I remember when Game Pass was out, and he was saying, like the new Gears game, you can always look for like a sign-up deal for Game Pass to pick that up. So I did, and I think it might have been $199 for a month or something, and I got the new Gears game, downloaded it, played it. What I thought was so cool is that I could play Gears online with my friends who were playing Gears on their Xbox, which was cool, and I didn't need to have any extra service beyond just having the game on my system. So yeah, I'm surprised that Microsoft is keeping this around. I mean, of course, hey, I get it. You got to make the money, you need the revenue. But, in PC, you don't have to have that service to play multiplayer. So it almost seems a little unfair. I don't know, just from my perspective.
Yeah, looking in the comments on this article, I noticed a lot of people, Ryan, to your point about like trying to will these things into being, like people were hoping that by Xbox Gold 12-month, going away, maybe this meant that Microsoft was going to make multiplayer free on consoles. Is kind of similar to the experience of playing on PC, but that does not seem to be the case.
Yeah.
Well, they are with Halo.
They are with Halo.
Halo Infinite.
Yeah, we do have those two comments. We have two comments from the article. One from Mr. X-Man. It says, that's disappointing with the Halo news and getting rid of the 12-month subscription. It did appear Xbox was going to make online gaming free. And then KDigD123 says, it's a huge revenue stream for them, so I'm sure the online is never going to be free. Maybe they make less profit on 12 months versus 1 to 3, but that seems like a pretty crappy move if that's the case. And I'm inclined to agree, but as Ryan said, maybe we will learn more that will kind of reveal more information on this whole thing at the end of the month when we get another, I guess I want to call it a direct, but it's not a direct from Xbox.
Yeah, we'll see what form it takes, whether it's one of their inside Xbox streams or some other, just hardware showcase, the way they just had the game showcase. We'll see.
So we have now done a Sony story, a Microsoft story, and now it is time to move on to the Nintendo story, because we spread love to all of the different consoles here at IGN, and we would like to tell you that Animal Crossing New Horizons sales have reached 22 million on the Nintendo Switch, which is absolutely insane. This makes Animal Crossing New Horizons the second best-selling Switch game of all time, only behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Nintendo's net profits have risen over 500% year over year. This is insane.
So it outsold Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes.
Yeah, it edged
Wow.
Odyssey between this and what was it, Pokemon Sword and Shield. It's edged Odyssey out of the top 5 best-selling Nintendo Switch games, which is also a bit crazy. But
Everybody go buy Odyssey if you haven't bought it already.
No, you would never expect Mario, the flagship Mario game for the Switch, to be taken out of the top 5. David, have you played Animal Crossing? Were you one of these?
I do have it. I do have it. I'm ashamed to say I haven't put more than an hour into it. It's not because it's bad. I bought it when the whole quarantine thing started. I got a Switch. I picked up the game with the intention of playing with my fiance. We played one afternoon together for about an hour or so. I think we got past the first night at the island, and then we just kind of stopped playing, and it's been in the drawer ever since. I know it's bad.
You have so much industry.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed.
It's bad. It was bad. And then I went on and I built the PC, and I've been playing, Ghost of Tsushima now. So I moved on to other projects, but I want to go back and play it because I did enjoy what I saw. So I feel like I'm behind.
No, but I think so. You mentioned like you got it in quarantine, and I think a lot of people were under that same situation. And I know we speculated before, but I wonder if the sales would have been so high if the world wasn't in the circumstances we're currently all in. But Animal Crossing's New Horizons. Oh yes, Terry.
Oh no, I was going to say, I mean, it's what, it sold 10 million copies more than the previous best-selling Animal Crossing game. Like, I think absolutely this game couldn't have come out in a horrible way, a better time for it, because what do we want more than a game that we can just suck up our time and be an escape, and that Animal Crossing checks all those boxes. And I look at this and I think about how Netflix, I know, completely different industry and all that, but Netflix is having some of its best viewership it's ever seen on its movies, and it's because, like, what else are you going to do but sit around and watch Netflix? What else are you going to do but sit around? And yes, there are other games coming out, but like you can just keep returning to Animal Crossing, and they've had a lot of great features that they've updated, and the multiplayer element, and you have stuff like animal talking taking off, and it's become like this cultural thing beyond it. So I'm not surprised, but I am impressed as a long time, like since the OG GameCube days, Animal Crossing player. I'm thrilled to see that it's doing so well for Nintendo.
No, if you draw, I was driving across the Bay Bridge coming back west into San Francisco, and there's a billboard that's clearly been up for months and nobody's purchased it since for Terry, A Quiet Place 2.
Yeah.
Which was apparently, I think it said the release date. It might have been the exact same release date as Animal Crossing. It was like, it was either March 10th or March 20th for the film, and I think it was March 20th for Animal Crossing, if I remember, because it was the same day as Doom Eternal. But it's just funny how these two entertainment, like big budget entertainment things, a video game and a movie, how the pandemic like just completely destroyed one because theaters had to stop, but then sent the other one, Animal Crossing, completely into the sales stratosphere. It's just a strange like flip of the coin of fate there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it came out at just the right time for it too. Like, I wonder even if it came out now, if it would have the same kind of cultural impact. But because, I mean, I remember when everyone on the internet was like, Nintendo, release it early, like give us something, because it came out a couple weeks after the pandemic really like kicked into high gear in the United States, and obviously you start with that, and it's a game that you can keep returning to. And again, I think the cultural impact did have a lot to do with like more people than maybe previously were aware of Animal Crossing becoming aware and being interested, because everyone from like Kat Dennings to T-Pain are playing it as well and posting about it.
I think Selena Gomez was on Animal Talking most recently. Like, what?
A single or something?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I also wanted to mention, we actually got a lot of information from these financial reports, including that Animal Crossing New Horizons was so popular from April to June 2020 that it was played on over 50% of all Nintendo Switch systems sold during that period on the first day of purchase. And also Animal Crossing New Horizons accounted for over 40% of overall sell-through for all Nintendo titles in Japan, the US, and Europe for that same time.
Anecdotally, so I bought a copy for my daughter for her birthday, which was fairly recently, and she's been super enjoying it. So it was a birthday gift. I wanted a cartridge just because I had to have a physical thing to unwrap. They didn't exist. There were no, like on Amazon, like I had to just buy it digitally and say, go for your present, go turn on the Nintendo Switch, which was a little bit of a bummer. I mean, it doesn't matter now, but it just, a little anecdotal evidence. Amazon, everybody cleared out of physical copies of that game, even 3 months after release, 4 months after release.
Even the Switch, like the Switch itself was hard to get. I remember the only reason why I picked one up is because I think it was Seth or somebody, over at IGN.com said, hey, they're back on sale at Walmart or something like that. And I rushed over there and I picked one up, and I think within an hour they were all sold out. It was so hard for me to even just to get one, the Switch.
Well, I thought it was another detail from the report today was that the digital sales for the Switch accounted for almost 56% of total software sales. And I wonder, I don't have the data for the other consoles to compare to that, but I have to imagine that that's a stocking resources issue of like, where can you actually get these things, but also the convenience of you're presumably stuck at home anyway. You don't want to go to Best Buy or Target or whatever, so you might as well, as you're bored, just download it. So I don't have the other stats on hand, but I imagine that's probably pretty similar to some of the other consoles.
Yeah, so I'm not totally sure about Nintendo, but I know for PlayStation, for example, their digital sales have been increasing over the years. For example, I think in the beginning of 2018, their digital sales were around like 35% or something like that. And then by the time the first quarter of 2019 came around, they were already breaching the 50% mark. So I think, I'm not totally sure about Nintendo, but at least with PlayStation, that number has naturally been increasing even without these extenuating circumstances. People are just buying more digital stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Kind of like companies' more willingness to allow people to work from home. I think this is just accelerating things that probably would have already happened if enough time had gone by. And I also just wanted to mention a few more stats from that financial report, including that the success of the Switch's software was mirrored by the console itself, which has now sold 61.44 million units, putting it only slightly behind the NES's 61.91 million units sold. And also Nintendo's mobile and IP-related income has reached 13.2 billion yen, which is a 32.7% increase year on year. But about that, Nintendo is actually backing off of their mobile strategy because they said it hasn't been bringing in profits how they expected and has actually been underperforming of how they expected it to. But this is crazy, and I congratulate everyone who bought Nintendo stock before this. And I do want to call out a few comments from YouTube. Blue Moon FC, this one is for you, Ryan. Odyssey still puts a smile on my face. And we do have... Really? But Zelda. This next comment...
Odyssey rules.
This next comment is from 00 Bugman on our article, and he says, "Holy crap, that's a crazy number. Regarding everything else, now I see why Nintendo is slow to make new announcements." And we also got another comment from Sauls Goodman, and they said, "I could do with more arcade sports games, Nintendo. Where's Mario Golf, Strikers, and Sluggers?" But with that in mind, are you all okay with the slow pace that Nintendo has been announcing things? Do you think that this is the reason why? It's just Animal Crossing, they're just riding the Animal Crossing success wave?
No, I don't think Animal Crossing has anything to do with it. I mean, they have their plan. Plans can adjust, but yeah, I mean, if anything, they should be accelerating things because of the quarantine, not slowing them down. Like if the rumored 35th anniversary Mario remasters and re-releases are true, I really hope those start soon. I know we just got the announcement for Pikmin, but that's not Mario. Super Mario Sunshine, which I'm mentioning, I'm going to see how many times I can crowbar that in on the show.
Yeah, we need at least 5 more.
Yeah, we got to keep going. It is, that's a summer game. Like, it's Super Mario Sun. It is the most, like, summery, fun, sunshiny game. Like, I want it now. I mean, I'll take it whenever I can get it. But, yeah, it's, if anything, I would think a pandemic would accelerate Nintendo's plans rather than kind of... They've been doing this weird. I don't know what their.
Do you think any of it is a competitive?
This year?
Do you think any of it's a competitive concern with knowing that it's going to be a big year for PlayStation and Microsoft with the new consoles? They don't care. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
They don't concern themselves.
I can't remember. One of them said that they are not concerned with the other, but I can't remember whether it was Microsoft or Nintendo. But I think Nintendo doesn't... They're doing their own thing. I think Ryan already said it. Nintendo's doing their own thing. They're not concerned with what everyone else is doing. They're going to do what they think is best for them in their own Nintendo bubble.
I just got to say, to keep this Mario Sunshine bandwagon continuing on, I love the way the discourse has changed around that game, because I remember there was like a period of time before the nostalgia really set in where I feel like it was a little bit slighted. It wasn't the game that people necessarily wanted, but I loved that game.
Yep.
I played the crap out of that game
Thank
when
you.
it came out. It was so much fun, and you're right. It's just like a beam of sunlight, like pun not intended.
It
Like, it's
is.
absolute joy. The game mechanics
Yes.
are so fun. I hope it gets remastered and comes back. And yeah, I'm adding more Super Mario Sunshine comments into this to continue to will it into existence.
I knew I liked you, Terry.
So that
Now
is
everyone gets to find out.
so that is the takeaway from this Nintendo story today. Animal Crossing is great, but where is Super Mario Sunshine Remastered Deluxe version for the Nintendo Switch? But on that note, there's no really good way to segue, but we have just finished the games portion of the news, games, and more. So let's talk about some of the news portions, including that Captain Marvel 2 has now gotten a director, and is Candyman's Nia DaCosta. Nia DaCosta is directing Candyman, which is coming out on October 16th, but will now be going to Captain Marvel 2 after that. David, I think you have some more information about this that I am missing, if you would like to fill us in.
Actually, I was going to hand that off to Terry.
I got
All right,
it.
Terry.
I came ready.
Yeah,
I
Terry
came
do
said
it.
that one.
I'm really excited about this news. I haven't had a chance to see Candyman yet. Obviously, none of us have. It's coming out in October, but there's a lot of hype around that one, and interesting that that Marvel chose another horror director, someone coming from a horror title, to come to a Marvel movie, which I'm curious what that says about what Captain Marvel 2's kind of tone or genre will be, because Kevin Feige, the head of all Marvel Studios, has really been having fun in kind of these phase 3 and 4 and 5, like having each new movie pick a different genre to play in. So we know that, Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, will directed by Sam Raimi, will play into some horror tropes. But Nia DaCosta, in addition to Candyman, obviously, again, more horror thriller, also directed an indie movie called Little Woods that was a crime thriller as well. So I'm picking up on some like thriller, tense vibes in what Captain Marvel 2 will be. Interestingly, Nia DaCosta directed Tessa Thompson in Little Woods. And so I wonder if maybe that was some of the connective tissue of maybe Tessa, who has been really pushing diversity in Marvel and challenging kind of Kevin Feige to be more inclusive and kind of the directors and people they're choosing in front of him behind the screens, if maybe she helped bring Nia to them. But there was a quote from Deadline that says, although the studio met with several individuals, DaCosta seemed to have the edge for some time, even as she and others met with Marvel chief Kevin Feige over the weekend. So I'm really excited. And also this makes me more excited about her Candyman, which I know, Jordan Peele is involved in that movie as a producer, but I wasn't super familiar with Nia's work prior to that, knowing she's going to go on to Captain Marvel 2 after it, whenever movies get to be made again, makes me more excited for what that film will be.
Cool. And sorry, do you think Candyman is actually going to come out theatrically on October 16th? Are theaters open? Am I just under a rock?
Yeah.
So, Terry, I think I believe I saw that someone had changed their plans to open in August, late August, but I think the Mulan story is going to be the big test. If Mulan is successful and is enough of a financial gain for the Disney, I think other studios would follow suit. Terry, I don't know if you agree with that, but I was just thinking, I think Mulan's going to be the big test, because that's, about like a $200 million film.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, David. I think that, studios have been trying to delay, especially in the United States, right? It's different in other countries, but in the United States, they've been trying to delay their titles to get those big theatrical releases. And we kind of see two different models for ways studios are approaching getting their movies out. You see the Tenet route, where they're saying, okay, well, we're just not going to release in the United States theatrically. We're going to release globally and do it staggered based on where people can see this movie in theaters. Or you see the Mulan route, if you're not going to get delayed a year to come out in 2021, where Disney's saying, okay, you can pay $30, which is a pretty steep fee. That's the price of 2 movie tickets, or 1.5, depending on where you live in the United States, to rent that on top of your Disney Plus subscription. But presumably you're seeing it with a family or a group of people.
But what if you live alone and are social distancing?
Then borrow someone's account. I mean, what password sharing? There are these kind of different models that you can approach. I have a feeling like Candyman is not a Tenet in the sense that you have to see it theatrically. So I would imagine that by October, if it can't come out in theaters, there's probably a digital rental route that Universal will go with it. But yeah, I'm with you, David. I think that Mulan is going to be the test, because if people rent it, if people will pay that cost, well, studios might as well start releasing these these movies digitally, because the audience kind of has so much patience with how much we can be marketed these movies. You look at Black Widow and it's like, how long are people going to care about Black Widow or Tenet before it's just like another delay and another thing that you've like lost all reason for kind of being excited about this thing that may or may not come out eventually.
And with that note, Captain Marvel 2 is aiming for a July 8th, 2022 release. I don't know why I said 22nd. 2022 release. It should be noted that Marvel's entire Phase 4 release slate has already been overhauled a few times due to production delays caused by the coronavirus pandemic, but hopefully everything will be normal by 2022 and we can go to theaters. But I guess the bigger question there is, will we want to go to theaters by the time we've gotten used to watching movies at home? But that's a totally different discussion. We do have some comments from the article, and this one is from Triple Tripticane, and they asked or said, why do horror directors always seem to do Marvel movies? Is that a trend that I've missed?
There have been some.
There's
James
been some.
Gunn and Scott Derrickson, and obviously Sam Raimi as well.
I mean, horror movies are also supernatural, like superhero movies, so there's some lap over with that. And this next comment is from Weirdsmobile, and they said, Captain Marvel comment sections are always the best. You stay classy, boys. Thank you for whoever went through those comments and picked those out for me, so I wouldn't have to read what this person is referring to. Appreciate it.
That comment section was just great, and everyone was really excited to see what Nia's vision will be, and are just very excited about Captain Marvel 2 in general.
Perfect. Now, also on the entertainment side, we have just posted the official IGN review of Star Trek Lower Decks. The review is by Scott Colora, but David has seen some of the show. David, tell us about Star Trek Lower Decks.
I have. So you can actually watch the first episode right now on CBS All Access. So if you're familiar with Star Trek at all, you know that there's this whole concept of first contact. There's even one of the Star Trek films was called Star Trek First Contact with the Star Trek, Ryan, that's a true statement. That's a true statement. And it's all about meeting a less technologically advanced civilization once they're at a certain point in their development and kind of ushering them into this new reality. That look, there's aliens, there's different planets out there, and people can travel much faster than light. So the crew of the Cerritos, what this show is about second contact. It's about all the bureaucratic nonsense that goes into meeting a new civilization and making first contact. So they're handling all the paperwork, make sure the name of the planet is spelled correctly, just all of the little stuff, which it's really funny. And it's from creator Mike McMahon. Now, he is from the Rick and Morty verse. So, of course, the same kind of whimsical humor that you find in Rick and Morty, you're going to find here. I really agree. You should go ahead and read Scott Colora's full review on IGN.com. But he talks about how not all of the jokes land, and I agree with that. Some of the jokes go on a little too far. Some of them are a bit too obvious. But really, I think it really captures the heart and soul of what makes Star Trek fun and enjoyable, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And it's definitely something I can recommend as worth a subscription to CBS All Access. At least we're trying it out. I just think it really captures the essence of Star Trek, even though it has a little bit of that Rick and Morty spin to it. It's just very charming, and I think the animation is fantastic.
David, I'm curious on the flip side, like so I think we talk about it a lot coming from if you're a fan of Star Trek, but if you aren't, but you are a fan of like Solar Opposites and Rick and Morty, do you think it's still accessible to people?
That's a good way of looking at it, Terry. Yeah, I think so. I think if you're a fan of Rick and Morty, I think if you're a fan of that, because Rick and Morty is, it's science fiction. I think if you're a fan of that type of humor, you're going to like this. You don't have to be a diehard Star Trek fan. There are little Easter eggs, little moments that if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll pick up on, but it won't ruin the experience for you if you've never watched Star Trek before in your life. I think you can still enjoy it.
You don't see a lot of naked men.
I was going to ask that same question.
It is a bit more violent. There's some more violence. They go on the, not getting too many spoilers, but there's some holodeck moments, and yes, you see some butts in those. So it's things you're not used to seeing. I don't think of seeing somebody's rear end when I watch a Star Trek television series or movie, but I like that CBS is just investing so heavily in their Star Trek universe. I love that they're taking risks with the franchise. I don't think Star Trek only has to be one thing. I think kind of like, Family Guy did with their parodies of the Star Wars films. Even though this isn't a parody, I'm glad that CBS is taking these kind of chances. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. They're kind of sorry to keep talking, but we're just coming off Comic-Con as well, and we found out that there's going to be like a new kids-focused Star Trek show as well. It's really interesting that CBS All Access is doubling down on this being their flagship franchise, but not just doing a bunch of like Discovery and Picard, which I know people in the comments will debate whether that's like classic Trek or not, but it's clearly leaning into the more classic elements of Trek. But then you see stuff like Lower Decks that's just so different, and Scott even touches upon it in his review that yes, they've done comedy, yes, they've done animation, but never an animated Star Trek comedy. And I wonder if it's going to kind of reach that wider and potentially younger audience that they seem to be going for.
I think the only thing holding it back, and I'm trying to pick on CBS, is just the fact that the CBS All Access. I do. I've kept mine. I've kept my subscription. I like the Twilight Zone. There's even the show called Why Women Kill. I'm not trying to get too off topic here, but
go for it.
I that might be the thing holding people back, because even though we are in this time of quarantine and all that, I mean, there's only just so many things you can subscribe to. But if you want to check it out, there's usually some promotions. I would say check it out if you can find a week free or something like that. I think it's worth checking out, at least to check out the first episode of this.
Okay.
I mean, good on the stakeholders of Star Trek, CBS and Viacom. I feel like 10 years ago, certainly 20, they never would have made this show. There's no way this would have made it out of the pitch room, because Star Trek, as you guys alluded to, was like just buttoned very low. Gene Roddenberry.
Before we move on to our next topic, I just wanted to address the YouTube chat. Why do you always devolve into console wars whenever we talk about Sony and Microsoft in the same day? I don't understand. Everyone likes games. That's all you need to know. Let's move on about more entertainment news, which has nothing to do with games. And maybe if you say an on-topic comment, I will read it on the show. The last story of the day is about the Invincible animated series. It was an adaptation of a comic by Cory Walker and co-creator Robert Kirkman. And so far I've seen it's been pretty good news. We got some character designs. David and Terry, I know that you have more to talk about this as well. And overall, it seems to be a positive reception of the character designs, correct?
Yes. I was going to say, I have a copy of one of the, if you can see it in my
perfect.
Camera, one of the books right here. They are really gorgeous books, and if you get these nice little collector's editions, it's a nice way to read it. I have not finished the whole series. I have like 3 or 4 of these large collections, but I think the drawings, the drawings look fantastic. I mean, at first when I looked at it, I'm like, wait, this is just straight from the comic book. I was like, they haven't changed anything, which is perfectly fine, because I like that it's capturing the look and the spirit, which is just kind of fun. It's Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead. This was his big superhero series on Image Comics, and it's so much fun. There's a lot of good comedic elements to it. If you're used to like the darker tones and more somber nature of The Walking Dead, this is, I wouldn't say the complete opposite of it, because it does get serious. There are some more mature moments to it, but it's also very funny too. And you can just tell by the colors and how bright they are. This is definitely a recommend for anybody who wants something to read while they're in quarantine right now. But also too, I think for fans of the series, seeing these drawings and the character designs, I think should give everybody hope.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest sentiment I saw, at least on the IGN article showing all the character art for the animated series, is how thrilled people were that this does look so similar to the comic. What we learned, so this came out for Free Comic Book Day 2020, and what we learned is that Cory Walker, who, as Casey said, is the co-creator and artist on the original series, he's serving as lead character designer on the Amazon adaptation, and you can see how much it's drawing influence from the art that he and Ryan Ottley, one of the other main artists on the series, have created. We also learned that Robert Kirkman is going to, who is writer for the comic, he's going to write the premiere and finale of the animated series season 1. So that's pretty exciting. And yeah, David, as you said, this came out during the time, in the past 2 decades where comics and comics writers and artists were kind of re-examining a lot of the tropes of superhero comics. And so I think that it's still relevant now, especially as we have people like loving Umbrella Academy and The Boys more more comic adaptations that did the same kind of approach to re-examining some of those story tropes that we love so much. So I think that Invincible couldn't be coming out at a better time, and it is a really beloved comic. So if people haven't heard of it before, this is a really great way to be reintroduced. And the voice cast is incredible as well. It's like Stephen Yeun and J.K. Simmons and Jillian Jacobs and a bunch of great people involved.
Right. After hearing Terry and David go on about this comic, do you think you will watch the show once it comes out on Amazon?
Yeah, I'm actually, Terry, I've never read it, but I started watching it when it came to Netflix. I guess that was last year, and thought it was great. And I'm actually happy. I'm watching about one episode a night on season 2. Super loving it. So if it's kind of in that vein, in that style of kind of
that pace will carry you right through to The Boys coming out,
totally,
Ryan, which is like a perfect handoff between those series.
Yeah, another show things about I need to watch.
Yes, it's very good. I do want to call out this one question from our YouTube comments from Silhouette of a Stranger, and they asked, people actually read comics? I see them as more of a vanity piece where the covers is just displayed. Why read comics? I don't get it.
Well, it's the same reason why you would play video games or watch a TV show. It's just a different form of pop culture to consume. And I'd actually say, like we were talking about digital games, kind of the evolution of digital games versus physical games in the past decade or so. And I would say comics have kind of undergone the same evolution, where you can so easily get digital comics on apps like Comixology that are just so easy to consume on all your devices, so that you can still have the like collector's edition of, collectible version of a physical comic for something that you really like you would get a physical copy of a game for something you really like, but you can subscribe to something like Comixology that is really cheap and easily available, and get like a massive library to consume. And there are just so many great stories, the way that they meld, great storytelling with amazing art. So I would say if you haven't in a while, maybe take a look at that. Look at something like Comixology that you can usually get a pretty good deal with. Give it a try because...
I was going to say, that is for what Ryan was saying earlier about Animal Crossing and getting that physical copy and just kind of having that, that tactile feeling. I don't know. There's just something about, just holding, in your hand and reading it and, smelling the pages. I know that's kind of an old timey way of thinking about things. Everything's so digital now, but I like having the physical copies. And
even if you're not concerned with having the physical copies, I think reading comics, like you can just do that, as you said, on Comixology or anywhere online. And I feel like there are hundreds and thousands more variety of stories and art styles to be found in comics than you can find in TV. And you're going to have that variety because I don't want to make it this broad generalization, but getting a TV show started seems a lot more difficult than getting a webcomic or a comic book published. So there seems to be a lot more variety of stories just because of that reason.
And I also think that you'd be surprised the vast array of media that is adapted from comics,
Mm-hmm.
like everything from Snowpiercer, to I can't even think of something else that wasn't Eastern Promises a comics adaptation as well. Like there are so many different things that are adapted from comics. It's not just Superman and Batman, though there are many great versions of those as well. So I'd say you probably watch or consume or play something that's adapted from comics. So why not go and read some different versions of stories?
So takeaway from the story is that the Invincible animated series looks great. It looks like a one-to-one animation style taken straight from the comics. You should read comics. And I have some comments from the article on IGN. This first one is from Godslayer979. And they said, simply wonderful. So glad they're keeping the style of the comics. So many other shows and movies act like this is so hard to do, and I don't understand why. And another comment is from Remy LeBou, and they said, in the first image, Omni-Man looks like he will ask you for pictures of that spider menace.
All right.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks guys for the comments. Thank you YouTube for listening to my mom's speech and for behaving. I appreciate you giving us comments to read live on air. And Ryan, Terry, and David, thank you so much for joining me. I think that is all for news, games, and more. We will be right back here on IGN's YouTube channel at 5 p.m. every day on the weekdays for news, games, and more.